We can now call this meeting to order. It's now 6:30 p.m. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. And if you would, silence your mobile devices before we start the meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Ellis if he would lead us in invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for being so good to us, for being so merciful on me. Thank you, Lord, for loving us, taking care of us, for meeting all our needs, God. We know everything good comes from you. I pray, Lord, for our nation and our state, especially for our county, and for the meeting tonight, Lord, for the decisions that are made to be in your will and be about your business, Lord. Where we can, Lord, help us to think of others. Help us, Lord, to look for the good in other people as we move forward. And God, thank you for this group and for the folks that are here. And bless each one. Bless Mitchell County, God. And thank you again for your son. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Lee. And I'd like to ask County Manager, if you lead us in a pledge.
Stand to salute the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, if you would, please make yourself aware of the ethics and awareness and conflict of interest. If we have none, we will move on if no one has any issues. Okay, we will move on to 6 additions or changes to the agenda. This time, do we have any additions or changes to this agenda? Hearing none, I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
By Harley, need a second. Second. By Steve. The agenda has been adopted. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from December 2nd, 2024 regular session and December 2nd, 2024 closed session? If so, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion.
Second it. Lee and Dale. There. Do we have any public comments tonight? No one has signed up for public comment. We'll now move on to reports and presentations. Ms. Jessie.
Good evening.
What we gonna eat for that becomes this big snow?
Still pretty.
I see you on Friday night, so I don't know if you got that before we go.
Nowhere home. Stay home.
Sounds like a smart move.
So, okay, so the activity report for December, you have that report. We collected $4,049,396.90. Not for December. And your next report you have is the collection percentage report through December. It was 80.46. You have that report also. I pulled the report for today. It's 89.44, 9% in 9 days.
Good job.
And we'll be doing our collections, the wage garnishments and all that at the beginning now. That set off all the collection activities that since the taxes are delinquent.
How many, do you happen to have the number of the foreclosure stuff that we've been working on?
I have a list. I didn't bring it with me, but I can email that total. You want the total
Yeah, like,
number or the dollars? I know it's over $500,000
that's,
since 22.
yeah, if you don't mind sending that, that'd be.
Send that to y'all.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, numbers and dollars.
Yes. I can do that.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Thank you, Ms. Jessie.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move on to 10B, Mitchell County Communication Recognition and Presentation. Miss Stephanie Wiseman. Yes, sir.
Before you do that presentation, I'm gonna recognize Stephanie. They got something written out here, but I've got to tell you about Stephanie. I've been, working with her now, been at this job about 3 years, and, Stephanie is a good one. We've worked together, and, we got working together in this storm, and, you know, when you're in the trenches, you kind of see who comes and, really holds the fort down, and I'll say this, and I've said this about Stephanie. If I'm in the trenches, there ain't nobody I'd rather have in there with me. And Harley nods her head. She's been in that EOC. Jeff's been in that EOC. We know. She holds the fort now. She upstaffed, whenever we was on the front of this, she provided good advice that started a lot of things moving in the storm recovery. And so Stephanie, just before I read this, thank you for what you've done for Mitchell County. We appreciate you. All right, Mitchell County recognizes 911 Communications Department for exceptional service, and that's department and Stephanie, but her department is a reflection of her as a department head. So that's exceptional service during Hurricane Helene. Mitchell County is proud to acknowledge the outstanding work of the 911 Communications Department during the challenges circumstances brought by Hurricane Helene. We extend our heartfelt congratulations to Stephanie Wiseman, the Communications Director, who has been honored by the North Carolina Department of Information Technology for her exemplary leadership and unwavering commitment to our community. In addition to Stephanie's individual recognition, the entire Mitchell County Central Communication team has been honored by NCDIT for their exceptional service to both Western North Carolina and Mitchell County during this critical time. Their tireless efforts and dedication ensured the safety and well-being of our citizens, proving their professionalism and resiliency in the face of adversity. Thank you, Stephanie. And right here is in our packet. I'll get this thing into allies right there. She was recognized on the state level for the work she's done. And so, with that said, thank you. And I know you're going to give a presentation, and just to this board, as we go through the year, we're going to have department heads come in and give an overall presentation of what they do to kind of better educate not only us, but our public as to what their departments do.
So thank you for that. And in regard to that, my staff makes me what I am, and I have the best staff in the state. They've stepped up. I brought Josh Nelson with me tonight, who has really stepped up and stepped out on some things and made us better over this time. So they are what make me look good. So in your packet, the Deidre printed for you guys, there's just a department overview of what 911 is. Looking at what 911 is, it's more than a number you dial when you realize you're in a situation that you're no longer able to handle without assistance. It's a system that begins with somebody making a phone call or a text to an emergency communications center. It's answered by a trained and certified telecommunicator. That telecommunicator in turn sends the appropriate resources to assist the caller with a problem. So that can be anything from EMS, law, could be a magistrate request, could be a need for animal rescue. There's just an unlimited amount of things that we deal with and handle. After hours for the water departments, for each one of the towns in our county. The list can go on and on. So basically, 911 started in this county as far as the 3 numbers in the 1994 to 96 timeframe. The first 911 center was actually located in the old Spruce Pine Fire Department, which is now the building that Commissioner Ellis is located in. We were in the basement of that, functioned out of there. In 2000, we moved here to where the rec facility is going, into a temporary FEMA facility, oddly enough, that was a result of the floods in 1998. In 2020, May 20th, 2020 to be exact, we moved into the new facility we're in now. State of the art, wonderful facility, blessed to have been there with what we've just been with. Worked 5 positions. We have the capability of working 5 positions. We typically work 3.
Two people are there 24/7, then we have a mid-shift person, and that mid-shift person is utilized based on trends and where the busy times are showing, so they can be anywhere from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. or noon to midnight, just depending on where our trends are and what the busy schedule is. All the people that work there have many, many hours of certifications. They're trained to use protocol systems. Those protocol systems, when they answer 911, there's a series of questions they're gonna ask. It's gonna get the right response to them in the right way. So everything is not an emergency we deal with, even though the caller may think it is, which is great because we want them to use 911 to call us because it simplifies things instead of trying to remember multiple numbers. So we encourage the use of 911 with that. Our agency partners, we dispatch for the 7 fire departments in the county, the sheriff department, Spruce Pine Police Department, Bakersfield Police Department, Mitchell Medics. And then we answer and do magistrate call, DSS call, we do the health department call. And there's multiple other agencies that's listed in your information in the package. Our current staffing, I talked to you about our backup facility. By statute in the state of North Carolina, we're required to have a backup facility. Our backup currently is at Spruce Pine Police Department. The extent of that backup is telephone, being able to answer telephones at that facility. In this budget year, we actually have built in to build out the rest of that. So what we're looking at is working with the town of Spruce Pine, in the police department, in their outer office, the office that has the, if you've been there, the window that the public can be greeted at. We're gonna build out that office as the backup because it has access to facilities that we may need inside the building. And that is 911 board funded. That's part of statute and things they want us to have. Along with that, the capabilities of the 911 phone system in the state of North Carolina, if and when our 911 lines go down, they can be answered anywhere in the state. We build what's called a list of friends. Our friends consist of Yancey, Avery, Halifax, Granville, and Carteret County. So even those faraway counties can answer our 911 calls. They'll radio those back to us, and then we dispatch units locally. So while the phones can be answered anywhere, the radio has to be done from here locally. Departmental funding is covered in there, and our department is funded by 2 sources. It's funded by general fund, and it's funded by the 911 surcharge that's on your phone bill, whether it's a wired phone or a wireless phone. So that money is put into a special fund, and it's governed by general statute on what it can pay for. So there's a list of things in statute that money can pay for, and it's very limited because it deals specifically with the 911 call. So once it gets to the radio side of the house, that's where the general fund picks up a lot of that. The 911 can't pay for staffing. There are some functions that staff does that it could pay for, but as far as a salary, that's not allowed by general statute. It pays for some training and some of the equipment, but otherwise it's split with general statute, with general fund. And I listed those statutes and training lists that you're able to, I can email this to you so you'll be able to pull those up and look at what those are. So moving from the department overview to our recent event, and I gave each one of you some statistics from Helene. So when Helene was kind enough to grace us with her presence, I upstaffed the centers, Alan said, to 5. I staffed all 5 positions. That was myself and 4 other telecommunicators, and I had 1 volunteer that was in the center with us. Phones, the 911 phones went down approximately 8:40 a.m. on the 27th. And there our phone calls started going to Madison and Yancey. When their phones went down, they were split between Granville, Halifax, and Carteret. That worked great that they were able to answer the phone, but there was a period that we were completely dark. Radio was working within the county boundaries, but not outside. So there was a time frame that those wonderful people at those centers were answering our calls, but they couldn't talk to us. We got 911s back roughly around October the 8th. We have since then had multiple outages. The system's fragile, people are working, they're cutting fiber. And we all know that at this point, Frontier doesn't exist, which is one of our secondary lines that comes in. So without that second Frontier line, we're solely dependent upon Charter Communications or Spectrum at this point to provide that 911 service. I found out just a few minutes ago that the 911 board staff is sending people to the center either tonight or sometime tomorrow, but by close of business tomorrow, we should actually have a backup system on the FirstNet system for 911, so that'll take away a little bit of our instability. It's slow, but it's happening. I also spoke with 911 board staff today, voicing my concern because we don't have Frontier and we are this unstable. And Frontier, they found some new contacts with Frontier, and they are assuring us that by the second week of February, the fiber build out from Burnsville into Bakersfield should be here during that second week of February. So hopefully that will help our public get some connectivity back and start seeing some improvements there. But they, even though they've not communicated with anyone, they are working. So, radio operations during Helene, did we get to answer everybody? No, we did not. Nobody was ready for what we saw in that. We had, like I said, there were 6 people in there listening when the phones went down. We couldn't answer everyone because the radio system was so busy. We couldn't get what's called a go-ahead tone to talk because everybody was working. The system's built as a statewide system, and there's only so many people allowed on that system to use it at once. So as you can imagine, it was super busy. So we were listening and we had a lot of calls in the system, and in the 24 hours on the day of the storm, we put 399 calls for service into our system. And that was without phones after 8:30 in the morning. So we were listening to them. I did some numbers there for you to see kind of the time consumption on those days, and you can see for September that our hours for the month of September of this year, had calls for service active for 41,640 hours just for the month of September. Last year, 2023, in the month of September, we had 3,423 hours.
You had more hours in September than you had all of last of 2023.
We did. And in that, that's from the time we open a call, all the activity we do on it until we close that call. So while we may take a 911 call and it take us 90 seconds to gather that information, what happens after that 90 seconds when we hang that call up is dispatching units, tracking those units, getting them all the resources they may need, and following them through until they're complete with that call and either back into their station as a fire department, completed an arrest as law enforcement, or completed their transport as EMS. So we track that for every agency we answer for. So it gets pretty hot in it there sometimes. So as far as the situation for the radio, is there a solution? There absolutely is a solution. Brandon Young, Josh Nelson, and myself are working with some of the subject matter experts on a plan. We're going to be searching for some funding to assist with that, because that's going to be some changes to mountaintops and some additional radio channels that we'll be able to access that don't necessarily wait on the state system, but will be available to us locally to better serve the citizens. So those guys got to respond and go out and help. It was a lot on them to see what they saw, but keep in mind that there's things that we'll never unhear, never. And it's hard. So thank you for what you do for us and the things that you give to us. We're blessed. I have a great staff. We love our citizens. We're going to do everything we can to take care of them. So, anybody got any questions?
Just a basic question.
Yes.
You know me, not my question.
That's all right.
What Do we get to choose who our fellow people are that answer our phone calls, or is that something that I'm on?
Our friends.
Yeah.
So we do get to choose.
Okay.
And I have to say Granville has been amazing
Mhm.
in picking up those calls. They took the brunt of them, the most of them. I talked to their director. It's just a great relationship and it can be reciprocated. Yes, that word. If they need us. So, but I mean, it's a good thing and we do get to pick our friends on who we do. We'll be doing, again, Fork and look forward to some ILAs between those agencies because this did we were working on those things, but the storm kind of grabbed us and jerked us into a real world. And the board did somewhat pick these, but they have some dynamic information that was beneficial and we're sewing those up after the storm to use those. Anything else?
Anybody else?
Our door's always open. We're there 24/7. If you want to come see us, come see us.
Comment from Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say this, a lot of times. If you have a regular job, you have set hours, and you're set hours. You have time to start, you have time to get going. And you look at that. These guys may have start time, but they have no end time. It's not like a regular schedule. It's not like they can get up at 7 o'clock. I can get up, clock out, I'm going to the house. Even though I don't have a replacement, it doesn't happen like that. So Stephanie, when all hell broke loose.
Yes, sir.
Everything was going on. How many days did you work at communications without leaving that site?
18 maybe. 18 or 19.
So just wanted the people in the community to know how valuable this is. And that we do have dedicated staff, and yes, they do get paid. But you've got to like what you do to be able to make this kind of commitment, because that would get old guys.
The first 5 of us that were there for roughly 48 hours with no relief. We did build a system and slept in 2 to 4 hour blocks. Taking turns. We'd hit a cot for 2 to 4 hours and get up and release somebody, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, we'll now move on to 10C board report. Mr. Blevins.
I've been to 2 boards since we were meeting last. First I went to the EMS peer review and, their biggest thank you was for the 3rd ambulance that the commissioners have put on the road for them. It's, very much helped them, and they asked me to relay that back to you guys and tell you thank you for supporting them on that. As Stephanie just said, their biggest goal is to be on the road 90 seconds after a call comes in from communications. Their goal is to be on the road, they are working with through the High Country Council of Government and the Mayland Community College Workforce Grant, where they are training and bringing in people as a 3rd person as an assistant right now on their trucks. And eventually these folks will be going to school and will be trained as paramedics, which is a win-win situation for everybody, because their biggest concern is that paramedics are hard to find now. And if they get these people trained, then they'll have folks on staff, they hope, through this grant. And this grant is a blessing to them as well. I did learn a lot of medical terms with help from Stephanie that night. Back there, I've learned so many medical terms, I could probably be Steve Pittman's primary provider. And then, going on to the animal shelter, theirs has been virtual. Hurricane, they wanted me to pass along hurricane relief is still in progress with that shelter, through supplies. that is offered through the Shelter Dog Transportation Alliance. And they're here as long as Mitchell County Animal Shelter needs them right now. The Wingate grant has helped, a lot with veterinarian expenses for those that had injured pets during the storm and they could not afford, that help, so they have helped there. New Shelter News, both counties are well involved with each other and they have a schematic design that's been made, and hopefully eventually down the road, they'll meet with architects, ask them to come to their board meeting, their own. And that's not what you'll have. I go to communications meeting this Tuesday or Wednesday. That's all I have.
Brother Pitt, met this morning with Spruce Pine Main Street, board. It's a pretty somber meeting. They were, I don't know, just kind of could feel the weight of that hurricane still looming over their head pretty heavy, and really how to get their feet underneath them and kind of get things moving forward and you know, we talked about, you know, what there's, you know, I think that Asheville, the city of Asheville just got appropriated like $220 million in the recovery efforts, separate from the 1 point whatever billion dollars that was set up. And you know, they just wanted to make sure that you know, how do we get in line for this money? And you know, I know Richard was there with the town talking about the amount of, you know, that they've applied for and trying to get. So I think going after like 50 million for a wastewater plant. They even got that awarded. I can't remember exactly what he said, but you know, it was just a lot of discussion around how do we get traction, and whose names do we need to put, whose ears do we need to get in to get, you know, because I mean, the reality is we all feel the pain of the hurricane, and we all still know exactly what people are dealing with, but to the rest of the world, or to the rest of the state of North Carolina, that's done and gone, and California's burning down now. So that's the new emergency. So we as a county and as towns have to do a good job of keeping that in front of everybody out there. And you know, I thought it was some pretty good discussion. One of the ladies, the assistant director, I guess she does marketing as part of her thing, and so she's going to be working on a video, and I think the Main Street Board is going to help fund this video. But my request to her was, you know, reach out to Kelly. You know, we've got Kelly here, you know, as the county. Don't forget, you know, Bakersville. I mean, it's just as bad as Spruce Pine, you know, and I don't want anybody to forget what all happened over here. And if you don't ride this way a lot, it's easy to think, oh, Bakersfield seems to be doing pretty well. No, it's just like Spruce Pine. So we got to keep that in front of stuff. And you know, it was really just about, you know, how do we get traction? Whose ears do we need to get in? You know, who's doing what? So, you know, they're going to work with the town of Spruce Pine and the town of Bakersfield to reach out and try to get some organization around who's applying for what. And, you know, and hopefully this video too will help give some, you know, keeps it in front of people, you know. So I think there's a lot of good stuff that come out of that meeting today. But it's, you know, I don't know, it just felt very depressing a little bit, like when everybody you kind of just see people feel like, man, we've worked really hard, but we still got a long way to go, you know. And that's but we just got to keep doing a little bit every day, and we'll get there. That's about the gist of the Main Street meeting today. Fire on the Mountain is still, you know, going to be happening in April, which I think is great. You know, it's a big event for Spruce Pine out there, and you know, brings quite a few people in here. And you know, I think it's good to get some normalcy and some stuff back rolling that needs to. So that's all I got.
That's Masters.
Steve, will they still have it on Lower Street, or has Spencer made that decision yet?
My understanding was that they're trying to have it on Lower Street and that they're trying to get, like kind of a plan around how to. I mean, obviously you got a lot of construction and things and big dumpsters down there that you're trying to, gutting these buildings and doing things, but streets are covered in mud still, so. They've reached out to a lot of different industries in the area. CSX has got a building right in there. We reached out to them to try to get, any kind of donation. And that's the point of this video too, is to get, give people, keep it in front of people, but give people an avenue to give money back. But, sounds like they want to try to have it down there, get it cleaned up and, kind of start trying to get some action back down there.
Well, I'm gonna say they'll do everything he can, and he is starting I don't know if he told you yet or not, but he is starting a new festival, the Hellbender Festival.
He mentioned that today,
So
yes,
he's very excited about that.
yes.
Let's see. I've not met with all of my boards thus far, but I do have updates on all of them. So if any of you guys are interested in attending a tourism event that Kelly, our TDA director, is hosting, it will be February the 13th. It'll be from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and it'll be at the cross street. And there'll be a breakfast and little snacky types things. But she's got some really good speakers that she's lined up, several different breakout sessions. And so it's a free event. It is for any tourism related business. So I'm sure she's got flyers she's going to be working on. I believe it was in the newspaper this week. So if you know any businesses that would benefit from attending that, please tell them. I think it'll be really, really good. And for the ones that don't know, Extension did hire our new director, and so that is Brandon Pittman. So I don't know if anybody didn't know that, but he is our new guy there. And we do have a new 4-H group, and it is a livestock group. So that's pretty exciting because kids seem to really enjoy the goats and the animals and all of the things that go along with that. We did have our CCPT meeting this week. We only discussed 2 cases. So that was a very short meeting. And then as far as Mitchell County Library Board, we did meet on December the 10th. Amber had just kind of a brief, vague update about how the Amy system is going to be affected by Yancey County pulling out. As of right now, Yancey County is still planning to move, pull out of there, so there'll just be Avery and Mitchell. And so hopefully she will have more information after they were going to meet and discuss some stuff early on this year. And then we did have some discussion about, which I think is later on in our agenda, but appointing a commissioner to the regional board. And so Dale, I couldn't remember if you were on that board as well right now. No, so just at some point later on in our. Yeah, so at some point later, tonight in our agenda, there does need to be at least one commissioner appointed to Dale or myself to that, so that we have county representation on the regional board. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
I went to the chamber meeting in December, and the Chamber of Commerce has hired Patty Jensen to serve as a consultant for the chamber. She is the initial commitment for her is until the end of February, and then that will be revisited. The chamber has launched a social media campaign to rebrand the chamber, in addition to educating members of the community about the chamber's impact and ability to help the business community. They are going to host a legislative update on January 23rd at 8:30. Everyone is invited, all are invited to attend. It's going to be at the golf course, and Senator Ice is going to attend. They're doing surveys, both related to just the chamber, but also to find out about Helene's impact of businesses to help hopefully in the future assist with grants. They're planning a long-term strategic plan meeting in the near future. And the chamber has created a new Helene business resource page on their website for some of those resources I mentioned. I went to the rec board meeting in December, and they were just wrapping up pre-K basketball, pre-K through first grade basketball. They had about 100 kids involved in that. They're continuing to work on Bowman. And it just got heat in the building. I think everybody knows, on the 30th. They started the process for cleaning out debris and the damaged equipment on the way to the baseball field. They started adult league. And then the second through the 8th grade, the second part of rec basketball started January 4th, and they had around 240 kids, for second through 8th. They should be finishing up with the Bowman gym floor Monday, it's coming Monday, and people should be able to go in there. They're gonna open up the gym during the day for kids to use at certain times, I don't know times yet. And, exciting news, the construction for the new recreation center is resumed. It's right on schedule. Concrete for gym side of the site has been poured. Electrical and plumbing have been completed. The office side of the center will be poured after, when the weather allows. And the building itself should be shipped around February 4th. Some really good news, they received a donation from a donor, $88,000. And the plan is to use that money toward fixing the Gooch baseball field, the new baseball field they're putting beside the rec center, and also they've got new bleachers for Bowman Gym. We had a EDC board meeting scheduled for today, but it got canceled. And I think we're gonna try to have it next week. And then they've not had a meeting yet for the fire association.
Thank you, Lee.
Yes, sir.
I attended this CCPT meeting with Harley, very informational, very quick meeting, that took place. The town hall meeting, last Thursday, was well attended for the weather. Kelly did a great job at putting the panel together. The questions I thought were great and very informational to the folks that were there. And I try to make it to one EOC meeting a week. Now, they have 3 on average, and I try to make it to at least one, so I went last Friday, and that was before the weather event was going to come in. So I just sit there and listen and gather a lot of information and try to process everything, what's going on. But everybody was aware of the weather event that was going to take place, quickly. So I started getting text messages on Saturday. And thank you guys for that. So Andrew, John Masters, Alan, Stephanie, you guys had a plan in place. Everything checked, everything followed through by 12 o'clock Saturday, maybe 1 o'clock. A lot of leg work, a lot of foot work. And we were ready for this storm, the worst. And, thank God it didn't get like that. And now these guys put together a shelter if people lose power for the event that could take place Friday and Saturday. All of that's been cut. So, I just want to say great job done. I mean, it was a lot of great team effort. Great team effort. Went to the Chuck Edwards, got a chance to meet with him along with county manager and Philip House in Bakersfield. Their 304 representatives were there. They're here. They want to help. They want to help get through FEMA stuff. If you're having trouble with FEMA, to go back. For some information we got regarding people having to follow up with FEMA, and it's been appearing now that that's an ongoing situation. That I heard the other day, it was a couple 7th time. Go back, they get asked the same questions. Jerry's been 8. They can't find your information. They don't realize you've been there, and you start over. Stephanie's had made us aware of that last Friday. So it's dang guys, it's not going as well as we all thought it would or hoped it would. People are very frustrated. don't know where to go, they need help. And, if I've been there 7 times, and I have to give them the same information every time. Because I can't find that information, I don't even like being there, you're not meeting with the same person that you met with the time before. We got a problem, or the federal government's got a problem. Man, this situation's gotta be correct, I mean, it's not good, and it's just like Steve said, California's burning down and hated for that place, but the storm that we had here in September is not gonna be forgotten. So we, as commissioners, elected people, community members, must have a voice. We must ring the phones of our elected officials. And I tell you, they, unless they're very good BSers, they're there to listen and they're to want to help. So citizens out there, the Edwards bus will be back in Mitchell County the 27th and 28th of January. Chuck Edwards will be here in person himself. The 30th is what I've been told, at the golf course. That'll be a question and answer. You can spend 5 minutes with him or so talking about your personal problem. So, that is, hopefully a good thing. But we gotta stay in touch and keep the phones ringing, these folks. That, we're not forgotten. We're not Buncombe County. You don't see us on the news every night or every other night. But we got a lot of destruction too. And then on a positive note, y'all may know who this is, you may not know who this is. Oliver Hanson plays a little bit of music, got to be very famous, but that was a song. I meet with one of his staff members tomorrow, weather permitting, talk about setting up the rural revival tour. Mitchell County will be the kickoff site for the rural revival tour. It will be a ticketed event. All money that's made comes back to Mitchell County. He's doing this for free. And I think he started out very small and now he's a pretty big hit. So trying to find a location, or multiple locations for 3,000 to 5,000 people. I've got a couple of sites nailed down, got semi-approval on one, and we'll look at another. So hopefully that is something positive that will take place the last of March or the 1st of April. So get your checkbook out, get your dates and shoes on. Let's tear it up and have a good time. And
I have a question, Joe. The money generated from that, what is his intent? Is it for like small businesses? Is it for residential? Like will it go through EDC, the Development Foundation?
I was thinking, that's a good question, Harley. I don't know. I think since the Developmental Foundation already has everything established, and there's several layers under that, it can go from business to individual. Help me out here, Lee. It can go, Mitchell County, it can go for specific, Spruce Pine, it can go for specific Bakersfield. Is that correct? I mean, you can designate that. And then I don't know how the process would go from there. But, it's for all of Mitchell County. So I would say you look at the need, or that board looks at the need. You would probably fill out a request form, get your name in the hat.
And I think they refer to that as far as the designations go, as Spruce Pine, Bakersfield. I think maybe individual and unincorporated. And I'm not sure if they've nailed that down yet, but they have a committee that's looking at exactly that as far as the money they received through donations.
And I think the deadline to apply for the first round, and that will be from $1 to a $10,000 grant, was last week. Was it the 3rd? Was it Monday?
I'm not sure about the deadline, but you're right about the amount.
Okay.
I believe.
But, to answer that, I don't know. But if we can get everything nailed out, I've got to find out what we need to supply stage, how many porta potties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and all that'll be determined working with, Andrew, EMS, Fire Association. I mean, there's gonna be a lot that's gonna do, we'll have to follow up on, to make sure everything, all angles are covered.
I didn't know who would be responsible for anything that they needed. I didn't know if you were that far into the planning process yet.
Talked to Gina, Jeff, on that, and she had everything organized for the Oak Grove Medicine Show. And that's probably as big an act around, I mean.
It was, and you know, I've been talked to Gina, I've talked to Gina several times. And, you know, her site was downtown Lower Street and had the plan laid out and it was all laid out. You know, that could be another site that could possibly look at. That's one of the 3 sites that I'm gonna show him tomorrow if it doesn't, you know, snow us out. But, I just sort of fell into this thing by a mutual friend that made a connection and feel blessed that we were able to get there. Hopefully it works out. Then Harley, if it does work out, we'll get the particulars and I'm gonna say, okay, guys. Now you guys gotta help me figure this thing out. You know, we have to.
Is it all proceeds or all profit that's being donated to the community?
Everything that comes through that gate. If there are food vendors that sell at the event, then they're gonna be charged a fee. If there were alcohol sales at the event. All of those proceeds, all the profit from that would go into all of this. So everything would run into one fund. From my understanding, he is not taking a dime of money. This is a free concert and he told me again today, we want to kick concert, the revival tour off in Mitchell County. So that's very promising. I mean, could turn out that, you know, things don't work out, sites don't work out, something doesn't work out. But right now we got our foot in the door. So it's a good problem there. Any more comments, questions? All right, let's go to 11 items for discussion. The first one is board appointments and adjustments. Ms. Masters removed from peer review, Blevins added to peer review. Any discussion on that matter? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Harley. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Steve. Okay, line item B, Commissioner Masters appointed to the Regional Library Board. Any
Mr. Chairman, we might take a vote on the motion that you have pending on the floor. You have a motion and a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I called for a vote.
Yes, sir, that's
My
correct.
fault. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, Steve. Thank you for that. You just kicked me over here. You're doing good. Okay, we'll move on to B, Commissioner Masters appointment to the Regional Library Board.
And so coming out of the Spruce Pine, not Spruce Pine, the Mitchell County Library meeting. That was kind of Amber's request, is that at least there be one county representative on the regional board. Dale, I don't know when they meet. Could you maybe?
Usually it's a quarterly meeting.
Oh, okay.
And usually they have the meeting in Yancey County. So of course that will probably change as time goes on, but, that's where the four groups, the four, Avery, Mitchell, Yancey, and the town of Spruce Pine. They have a representative from each system that goes and meets, with them, as part of the board there.
Any more discussion? Okay, do I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Dale made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Lee makes a second. All in favor? Any opposed? No passes. I'm gonna bring this one up and I'm gonna ask the county manager if you would speak on this. It's 11C, resolution supporting wildfire mitigation and timber recovery efforts.
So, thank you, Commission Chair. Mitchell County had the greatest tree loss of any of the counties in the Helene Path. North Carolina Forest Service estimates approximately $41 million in timber loss. The next in line to that was like 30 million. So we were like 11 million higher than anybody else. Significant timber loss, and it's fresh on our minds right now, but about 2 weeks ago, we've been working with associates and peers to build out some timber mitigation. And with the fires that you're seeing out west, when these trees that are hanging season, we have the potential for a very bad wildfire here. So we want to get out in front of that ASAP. It is a critical need for Mitchell County, and it's one that time is of the essence. So we developed a resolution that we're going to send forward. So typically when I start going something towards the political ends of it is I need a resolution of support from the commission board. And then we send that out to our politicians, our state and our federal folks. And we basically are asking that they rush mitigation, that they start moving forward with wildfire mitigation earlier rather than later. And that can be done by some incentive programs to make landowners, by the way, 80% of this timber that's down on private owned lands. So we've got to get those landowners some incentives to do mitigation. And think about this, if you're a landowner and you have a boundary of timber, whether it's 10 acres, whether it's 100 acres, that was some money that you was holding out for when you was going to log that and get some money. It might have been paying for your kids' college. And, we all have, we kind of know what our timber inventory is. Well, it's got wiped out and we need some help. And it's one of our critical needs. It's among several, but this is one of our critical needs. I want to read you this resolution because I want you to hear it and I want you to know it. Resolution of support by Mitchell County Board of Commissioners supporting wildfire mitigation and timber recovery efforts. Whereas Tropical Storm Helene caused catastrophic tree damage in Mitchell County, resulting in the greatest amount of timber loss in western North Carolina. And whereas down timber, as it dries, presents an extremely high risk of catastrophic wildfires threatening lives, properties, infrastructure, and natural resources in Mitchell County and neighboring areas. And whereas financial damages from timber loss are the highest in Tropical Storm Helene's path, with Mitchell County's timber loss estimated by the North Carolina Forest Service at $41,063,580. And whereas approximately 80% of this timber damage occurred on private lands, directly impacting families who rely on the sale of timber as a supplemental income source. And whereas fallen timber retains higher economic value if harvested prior to spring greenout, and timely action is essential to prevent economic and ecological losses. Whereas the complex and hazardous conditions involved in harvesting down trees, which are often jammed and under pressure, require additional resources and support for both landowners and timber companies. And whereas effective wildfire mitigation measures, including incentivized timber harvest programs, controlled burns, and other forest management practices are vital to reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfires and supporting local economic recovery. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mitchell County Board of Commissioners formally support state and federal initiatives to, number one, provide financial incentives and technical assistance to landowners and timber companies for the safe and efficient harvest of down timber. Number two, expand and fund wildfire mitigation programs, including controlled burns and forest management practices to reduce wildfire risks in Mitchell County and surrounding areas. Number three, develop programs that address the unique challenges faced by private landowners in managing large-scale timber loss, with a focus on preserving the economic value of down timber and fostering sustainable recovery. Be it further resolved that the Mitchell County Board of Commissioners will actively collaborate with state and federal agencies, forestry experts, and local stakeholders to advocate for the necessary resources and policy adjustments to address these urgent challenges. So, this board is supportive of wildfire mitigation, and we're trying to give them some implementable actions to start moving forward. And, starting this ball rolling would be this, resolution.
Do we have a discussion on, the resolution? Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. Steve, second. And, all in favor? Signify. Any opposed? Thank you, guys. 11D, DSS, APS, additional positions.
I can speak to that just briefly. So as the storm came on, we had a need for expanding out a few positions in key areas. And one of those was DSS, APS, and below that's also CPS authorized position. So we are working with our citizens, and that aspect of social services during a disaster has caused need for us to have that additional position.
Okay, we have a motion to add additional positions for DSS, APS.
Make such a motion.
Steve, do we have a second?
Second.
Bones, Mr. Blevins, excuse me for calling you Bones. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? 11E, DSS, CPS, position authorization.
So I'll speak to that one briefly. The DSS CPS authorization, Mitchell County, was making some hiring authorization through the board on that. And, from past meetings, that was just an authorization to move that, CPS position forward. And it has to be done in a commission meeting, about a hire that we had, about right around Christmas, just after Christmas.
Make a motion.
Motion by Lee, second. Second, Steve, all in favor? Any opposed? And the last thing in 11 is FSDR contract, not to exceed amount increase.
I can speak to that briefly. Sonny, would you like to kick it off?
Yes, when we got started on the, state contract that y'all adopted for debris removal, I think our original estimate was somewhere on the right of way, somewhere around 600,000 cubic yards of debris is what we were looking at. And, now that we've looked at it, and that's potentially that could end up on, that's where how the estimate came up with. We looked up into people's yards, we rode the streets, said, okay, there's about 600,000 cubic yards. Well, a lot of that has not come out. So we've adjusted it down to somewhere around, probably shy of 400,000 cubic yards in the right of way. Not in people's yards, not in the riverways, just the right of way. And I think the original not to increase amount was just a starting point. I mean, a lot of our counties, we in western North Carolina, we're doing 9 counties right now. All of them are gonna have to do an increase. You just have to start somewhere, and that's just happened to be where we started. We currently, I mean, our estimate, we just kind of keep creeping up. It depends on what you want to do as far as countywide. If you want to, increase it and then work a little bit longer and then increase it again. I mean, it just depends on how y'all normally do your financing. So it was just a starting point. It was never meant to be. That amount would cover everything.
So, I know we were looking through financial reimbursements on that, and I think to this point, we've reimbursed about $2 million between monitoring and debris removal out of what was a scope of work to be around $20 million. I would be thinking that you'd need that. What is the logic in such an early time during this frame to run that not to exceed up, an extra $2 million?
Well, and it's totally up to the board. It really is. We just, you know, whatever y'all are, you're comfortable with, because whatever the debris is, it is, you know, it's just estimates, and it would, you know, we could look at it and say, okay, we're thinking 380,000 cubic yards total, we've already hauled 130,000, so we're a third of the way there. You can just go ahead and do a one time, and if we don't get there, let's just say there's less out there, you don't spend it. It's just up to however you wanna do it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Every county's doing things differently. Some of them are doing it in $3 million increments, some of them are doing it in $1 million increments, some of them did 20 million. So, just depends on where it's at.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Sonny, you just threw some numbers out and I wasn't able to jot them down that fast. How much debris have you guys actually moved as far as weight wise?
As far as, we have moved off of the right of way 100 and I wanna say 25. We do have a daily report. I didn't get it today, but that just plus or minus 125,000.
So is that just vegetation or does that include?
C&D and, C&D and vegetation. Yeah.
By the way, thank you for the schedule that you sent out there this.
Well, I hope it helps. After the town hall meeting, I listened and, Mr. Harding and I heard about parks and the entrance ways coming into the cities, and that's what we're concentrating on with and still working out. We think as of today, we had somewhere in the neighborhood of, and we're adding on trucks every day, 25 or something, and we're adding on more self-loaders. So, whatever you need, I work for you. Please let me know what I need to do.
In that schedule, did they have a time frame on pumpkin patch?
We're on 226 today, and we got run off by the DOT.
Was it? I was gonna say.
Yeah. We were on there
That's a
today,
really
and we
big
have to have
issue.
we have to do a plan, a traffic plan, and we're working on that. We got run off of that today, and we'll get a start on there next week with a traffic plan.
How long does that take?
I'm not really sure. I've never done one for North Carolina. We weren't even in the road. We were on the shoulder.
Any other questions from any board members?
I'm not much for kicking the can down the road, but I'd like to make a motion that we table this, so I understand it just a little bit better.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
I've got before we get to that point.
Okay.
And we'll go back. I think that we all understand the sense of urgency in our business districts that are struggling or have since the storm, whether you've been able to be open or not be open. Got a spring season coming on us. I think it's been a month that I mentioned Oak Avenue and Spruce Pine. Still looks like crap. Nothing's still not been picked up. I'm on it twice, at least every day, usually 6 times. Sunnybrook Drive in Spruce Pine, you still cannot get an emergency vehicle up Sunnybrook Drive. Now, whoever picked up a little bit, but you got logs sticking out over the white line, and I believe the contract says 20 foot from the white line back will be cleaned up, correct?
20 foot or to the right of way.
Okay.
Could be bit longer, could be shorter, but 20 foot is a rule of thumb.
You know, so I'm gonna emphasize again, and I know every community wants the brush picked up in their community, and I'm all for that. I think that's important, but I think the driving factor financially is we've got to get our 2 towns cleaned up that are the drivers for the economic boost that's coming up this spring, because the finance officer's sitting here, and I think, you know, she's gonna tell us it's gonna be a little bit different year this year with revenues coming, so we need all the help we can get from y'all. So, you know, and I hate to keep beating on that point, but,
No.
you know, I'm gonna beat on it till
It's done.
until it gets cleaned up, I'm sorry. So that's only comment I wanna to make, and I think Mr. Ellis,
I'll make a comment.
okay,
People talk to you right now, about debris removal quicker than they'll talk to you about insurance. So I wanna understand this a little better. That's the reason I made the motion to table.
Okay.
I do echo, I agree with Jeff, the towns, the economic impact, if we can move that for Bakersfield, Spruce Pine and the business areas, if we can make that a priority, I think it would help, but people have talked, I figured I'd hear about taxes when I got elected,
Not yet.
but debris removal is what they want to talk about right now, so, I have a few questions to ask the other commissioners and certainly Alan, but I appreciate what you're doing. I drive by my driveway and I think, my gosh, it'll never be the same in my lifetime. But we do need help in those places we're counting on for business revenue and people depending on their jobs for getting back to work, I would say.
Excuse me, is there anything the commission can do with the DOT? Because the DOT wasn't here to help very much at the beginning of the storm at all. It sounds like they're now hindering this happening.
I'm gonna speak a little bit to that. DOT, spot on. DOT's been working really hard in this county. I've been watching with Gabe Johnson from day one, coming to our Spruce Pine Fire Department meetings. There are a few issues with DOT and some of these loadout yards and some of the safety aspects. As we went through on the county manager side, in the various places in the county, we were coming up on crews that did not have any flagging. And to the point that it was kids doing their hands that might have been 18 years old. And that puts our citizens at risk and those crews at risk. Having a safety plan by DOT is something you'll hear us, we will be for all day long. DOT's been telling me before they come down on you, and they've been telling me, Alan, this has went on 2 months. We've been trying to be patient, but we fear citizen issues. And I know that might constrict some of that work, but I'm gonna go ahead and lay it out there straight. Debris pickup works for the county pays them. We've been very gracious on letting y'all set your schedules where you go, where the subcontractors go. But it's gonna change to the point we're gonna say you're going here, you're going there. And if you're not going there, then we're gonna say, we'll document that, and if it happens enough times, we'll find a new contractor. That ain't nothing against nobody in here. I enjoy everybody and they're good folks, but it's just business and we gotta get this business done.
I disagree. It's more than just business, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
The DOT wasn't there to help.
generally, discussion other than public comments is between the board and the speaker. Citizens are usually given the opportunity for public comment. Otherwise, if the board loses its focus.
Sorry for the interruption.
Any more discussion, concern, questions? Okay, there was a motion put on the floor. Would you make that motion again?
I'll make a motion to table this, discussion, SDR contract not to exceed amount increase.
Is that just till our next meeting, Lee?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I feel confident by then. I just have some questions for Alan specifically.
I'll continue to second that motion until our next meeting.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Vote with sign. Any opposed? Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sonny, for being here.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any concerns or questions or discussions for the consent agenda? If not, I'll
I do
entertain.
have a question.
Okay.
Road names, sorry, I'm trying to find it real quick. Any other road names that are similar to this, do we?
due to our road naming ordinance.
Yes.
There should not be, I think we vet that out before we do that, but, I'll tell them to double
I
check.
just wanted to verify so that, because I know there's several road names in the county that are very similar to each other, and sometimes it causes a problem.
Yeah, it's a communications issue on that, it's. But to my knowledge, there's not,
Grassy Meadows Trail, is that what it's called?
yeah, it's
Sorry, it's really
for the meeting.
And Appalachian. Oh, there it is. I'm looking at two people that, off the top of your head,
I'm not gonna say, I can tell you there's several Grassies and I can tell you there's several Appalachians. I have no clue what's on that list, so. It's not something that's brought to me for discussion.
Okay. We might make sure that goes through.
Okay, how we want to handle this, do we want to,
Pass it pending, they're not conflicting with anything closely. Pending they meet the standards of our road naming ordinance.
okay,
I just want to make sure there's no duplication because sometimes I've, it
that's a
can
good
just-
point, made Harley.
Cause an issue.
Nightmare for EMS.
if you've got one on the north end.
So we'll have a motion to pass the consent agenda with 12C. If there's no conflicting road names.
So moved.
Motion by Harley, do I have a second? I'll second it. Second by Dale, all in favor, please vote. Any opposed? Ms. Mavis, you're up.
I've got several things, so, what I wanna start off with, Stephanie, I just got the notice that, the governor has already declared a state of emergency. So Alan, we might want to do that tonight before the board leaves, if we could. Because we would have to declare a separate one for this upcoming storm, separate from Helene, in order to get any type of aid or help. So, maybe we need to do that before y'all leave tonight.
And Mr. Chairman, under the emergency management statute, that can be signed by you as the chairman unilaterally, or you can take a vote of this board since you're all assembled and have the board vote in favor of that. That's, within your discretion as the chair.
Right. We just need to get it, we just need to probably go ahead and get that done tonight, Alan, just because we don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. I do have a few things, only because I know the last couple of meetings, I say I have no report because I've really been too busy to put together some numbers, so I've started putting together a few numbers. Just because we're mid-year and we'll see even more of those numbers first of next month when we do a budget amendment. But just to kind of let you know, kind of where things are going. And I'll start off by saying, I'm putting these in your boxes and I hope you're picking them up, but you'll get these every month. And it's giving you just a little snapshot of where we are overall in each department, as well as your property tax collection. And I know Jesse gives you that, but there's one thing on here that you might want to look at is when she said at the end of December, we're 80.46. I also put on mine versus what it was last year at the same time. And we're pretty much right on target. We were running a little bit behind there for a couple of months, but it's 80.46 for the end of December versus 80.54 for last December. So we're spot on where we should be there. The other thing is revenues look really, really screwed a little bit because it's so much higher than our expenses. But you've got to realize, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, is we are starting to see one thing, we got expedited funds from FEMA to do our debris removal. So that is throwing that number out of whack a little bit. So don't get all excited about that number. It'll work out here in a little bit. One thing I will talk about, and I think somebody started on that a little bit tonight already, is sales tax. And I did look at some numbers for the first 4 months. We only have July through October sales tax receipts. We will not get November until January the 15th. So you got to realize we're about 2 months behind in what we're getting. And I know some of you probably already seen this, as of October, we are the worst county in the state. We are 24% negative. So we are the top of that. In dollars, that equates to $117,000. We are short through October, $117,000. So basically that's for the first 4 months. So we will cross our fingers that improves. So that's where we are in sales tax. And that's a big deal. If we don't meet our budgeted goal, we're gonna be short there in revenue.
We basically lost our biggest leaf season with all.
We did. And we're going into our worst season right now, usually January,
Yeah.
February, so. Talk a little bit about FEMA. We are putting the projects in, and what we're doing is what's called small streamline projects, which should be your easier projects to get through. And we have several that we've already input. And today, off of those small projects, and we're not talking about the debris, we know that we already got our advance on debris. We got the $9,954,000 as our 50% of that debris contract. It was close to 50% that they give us up front. So until we spend that money, and as of today, Alan's correct, we spent 2.1 million. So until we hit that 9 million, then we'll go back and we'll ask for that second half of that contract. The contract is about $23 million. So they gave us a portion up front and then we'll go back. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the small streamline projects that we are doing with FEMA for replacement of vehicles, replacement of equipment that we lost, we're working on overtime hours, we're working on, we got porta-johns, whatever it was we got during the storm, we're putting those together. And of course, we can't submit to FEMA till we settle with insurance on whatever that particular item was. So today, we've received back from FEMA $165,138. We've got much more in the pipeline today. Actually, I think FEMA approved like 4 more of my projects. So once they're approved by FEMA, they get pushed over to the state. I have to wait for the state approval. Once they approve them, then they go for payment processing. So it's not a quick turnaround, but we're in the pipeline and we're processing, and that's the best we can do. Any questions on that one? Okay. I think, Christy wrote me down some numbers to give you an idea of where we are in opioid money. As of right now, we have $1,094,661. We've obligated 108 million of that for 6 months for school counselors, if you remember. And, that's where we are on that one right now.
I have a question that's not related to that, but
Okay,
you
go
said
ahead.
schools and it made me think of it. Have you heard from them at all on, the insurance process for Bowman? If they made any traction with getting that turned into FEMA or anything?
I have no idea. They, and again, you'd have to talk, we'd have to, I haven't asked Beth this question. I have been working with Beth because they did apply for a lot of funding from DPI. DPI had some emergency Helena capital funding. The school has applied for that money, and to date, that money has to come through their lottery account, which comes to me, then I have to write them a check. And to date, I've written them about 13.2 million that they have gotten from DPI for capital improvements. And it seemed to be for all their buildings, their parks, their playgrounds. I've got her request in my office if anybody wants a copy of those. I think I've sent them to Jeff because he had asked for them, but if anybody wants those, you can. So what she's gonna do now, I don't know, since she got special funding from DPI for those expenses. I'm not sure that she'll even need FEMA or insurance for that, for those particular items. I don't know. I don't know if she included Bowman in that or if she was still waiting on insurance for Bowman. I don't know.
I was just curious.
But she's got some capital funding and that money came through really quick, so she's already got that money. It's already come and she's already got it, so. I have no idea where she's at
Do
on
you have a
that.
copy of their capital needs that they presented at budget time? Like, do you, have a copy of
I'm
that?
sure I could go back into our budget files and find them. I don't know right off what they asked for, but I'm sure that's all changed now.
Yeah.
Sure. The other thing that we're still pending, and I guess we might need to discuss briefly, only because I've gotten two quotes, and I have the building consultant projected price. We've not settled with insurance on the funds on the building back here, the tax, sheriff, and transportation building. I guess I need some direction on what we're gonna do and how you want me to proceed with that building. We can rehab that building and use it temporarily until this other building gets built and we find a solution of where we're gonna put transportation and tax. I don't know, I'm kind of holding off with insurance because I just sent them, I got a quote that was lower than the first quote that I got to mitigate and refurbish that building. And it's close to what insurance is wanting to give me, so I've sent them that one. I would still, I'm about within $4,000 of what the engineer, the consultant projected the money to be. So I'm getting close. FEMA's advising me to probably take this one, but I'm a little stubborn, so I went back with them with the other quote, trying to get a couple more $1,000. I don't know if I'll get it or not. So we're getting close to settling on that building, so I kind of need the board to give me some direction, because I know Chairman Harding was against rehabbing it, but I'm not sure where we're gonna put the staff if we don't temporarily fix it to where they could go back in
Okay, I've got a
until.
question. So how long is it gonna take to rehab that building?
I don't know till we meet with the construction company, but I'm estimating 60 to 90 days. It's not a lot of work. New flooring, cut 4 foot of cut on the drywall and replace it. And new flooring, and they will have to do the outlets on the bottom. Other than that, it's not a lot of work. The problem's gonna be, cutting it out, mitigating it to make sure everything is dried out. The big thing is drying out your air vents and things, just to make sure there's no moisture in there. They'll have, the mitigated part's gonna take a little time to make sure. Putting it back together, they're telling me it's not gonna be that long, as long as we're not too picky on the product that we put back on the floor or the color paint, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's something in stock, it's gonna go really fast.
So you said, what, 60 to 90 days possibly?
Mhm.
What is the time frame for the rec center?
It's probably gonna be around September 1st to
Okay.
be done.
And I'm concerned that we'll make that just because I think originally that building was supposed to be delivered in November, if I'm correct. Now it's gonna be February, unless they can make up a little bit of time. I mean, I could see it possibly going out to October, depending on. Just because now they had hoped, I think, right, Alan, they had hoped to have that
Dry that in
building
before
dried
winter.
in before winter came, and they didn't because of the storm. So I would hesitate to say that it might be October or November before that building's complete.
So let me ask you this, what's the difference in the money to repurpose the building versus not doing anything to it? And tear it down.
I don't know how much it would cost to tear it down.
And the other fold to this question is, this all revolves around how quickly we can get them both. I think we're all aware that we have a terrible shortage of parking
Right,
right now. When the new center gets open, let's say in October, then it's gonna become a major problem. You know, when we have practice or games or, you know, whatever the event is going on, in my opinion. And then I get a lot of heartburn over, and I understand the process, I think. You know, we're gonna get more money if we repurpose it than the appraised value that it's at right now. You know, I understand that, but I got a lot of heartburn that we're repurposing a 20-something-year-old FEMA building that's been flooded. Even though we're getting insurance money from that, it's not taxpayers' money. And I think it's a definite discussion, whatever the majority of this board wants to do with that facility, but sounds like we need to have this discussion and probably a lot more information by, what is it, the January 21st meeting.
I just have a couple questions. If we tear that building down, you can never build anything back right there, correct? Okay, second question, the HVAC system that goes from transportation, the sheriff's office, tax office, is it all one thing? They're all completely separate?
Mhm.
Okay.
And see, we wouldn't rehab the sheriff's department other than the fact that they'll have to tear the floor out and put the wall back and forth. We wouldn't build anything back out in there.
Mhm.
Just leave it an empty, one big empty space. I guess, Jeff, my opinion personally is we don't have a good working situation for the public right now to come in and pay their taxes.
That's evident.
And you're gonna be dealing with ENR this spring,
Mhm.
and those people are on top of each other down there, and then you've got transportation in that same room. I think it's not a good working situation for those two departments, and it's really not fair to the people that we've kind of kicked out of that space that was using that space.
Well, I agree with you totally.
And I don't know where else we could put them in 90 days and get them back up and running.
There's nowhere, man.
So, I have a
I
question.
mean, there's no.
I don't know what to
There's
do.
nowhere quickly you're gonna put them, but in 90 days, ENR is gonna take place before 90 days gets here. So we still have the same problem with an overcrowded facility.
And it could be, we could fast track one into the building and get, you know, if we could get transportation back in their end.
Mhm.
Or the tax, now the tax office is probably gonna be the easiest one to get back up and running because there's very little damage in there. Transportation had the major damage, so it could take a little bit longer in there, I don't know. But to me, we've already ripped the floor out of, the tax office, we did that like 3 days in, just trying to save that space.
Okay.
I just have one more question. If we use insurance money to fix transportation and rehab it and temporarily move them back in there, do we have any obligation to leave transportation there for any extended amount of time, or we could possibly move
You don't have any,
maintenance?
yeah, you don't have any obligation to leave anybody in that building.
I just
If you
wanna-
take, for example, the 170,000 from insurance, you spend 170,000 rehabbing that building and put people back in there temporarily. You can keep it a year, you can keep it 2 years and then move them somewhere else once you find the location, and you can tear that building down. That's, am I not right,
Yes, ma'am.
attorney?
That's correct. The difference in reimbursement is going to be your insurance will pay you your replacement cost to build it back, or what they believe your replacement cost is to build it back. If you choose not to build it back, they will only pay you the current value of it. In other words, they will take the depreciation that is accrued off that building to determine a lower amount that they'll pay you. So you can either, your choices are they will pay to build it back, or they will pay you the current fair market value, which they will account for as less. Once it's built back, if that's the option you choose, you can do whatever you want to with it. There's no obligation to use it for any particular purpose or even keep it for that matter, technically.
The other thing is FEMA has talked to me about that building and the fact that if we were to rehab it and if the insurance does short me $4,000, if I'm short, if we get in there and it ends up being a little bit more, then FEMA does have it on their list. They will come in and do a claim on that building. They already have a claim sitting there on that building. They actually have it valued at something like $750,000. But it's sitting there, so once I settle with insurance, then that claim will kick in and FEMA will backfill any deficit that we were to have. For example, if they start mitigating and they find something that's not already been found by their inspectors and all this, because FEMA's inspected it, the insurance engineers inspected it. So, but if we find anything and it costs us more, then FEMA's gonna come in. They've assured me that they will come in and mitigate anything else. As well as if we wanted to keep that building in the future, they would come in and mitigate that to ensure hopefully that it doesn't flood again. That's, Alan, you might could speak to that. I've only done a couple of mitigations in my tenure here, so I'm not real familiar with that, but there is money down the road if we want to keep that building to try to keep it from flooding again, if you wanted to keep it. If you don't want to keep it, then you don't worry about it.
The other item, if you choose to take the insurance money instead of repairing the building, FEMA will not contribute.
Right.
Because you've torn the building down and you have taken the insurance money, so there
Right.
wouldn't be any FEMA money available.
There would
For
not.
that product.
You have to, yeah, right. You have to rehab it, put it back to the same use it had before. You have to make it like it was before the storm. No more, we can't like go in and put gold plated fixtures in there because that's not what we lost.
I think there's a lot of good items here that we need to talk about. I think we get all those numbers and be able to see it too, for everybody. I would say let's table this to the next meeting. I'd like to make a motion, Jeff, and maybe Mavis can come back and bring us those.
I can tell you the numbers. Do you wanna know the numbers? I can tell you. Right now, we're sitting at, insurance is gonna give me about 166,000. One construction is saying $162,647. One estimate come back at 221,000. They're traveling further than the other one is. That's the biggest difference is they are charging travel and per diem and hotel stays. Because they're coming from the eastern part of the state and the other company is not traveling.
What's the value, if we just took the value of the building, what's it?
I don't know. I've not asked them that because I was trying to get the most I could get.
Well, it seems like, yeah, it seems
I'm
like,
sorry.
no, that's.
The building consultant and the FEMA people that did the inspection and they wrote up everything they said needed to be done. Their cost was $170,805. And that's why I'm trying to negotiate with insurance to bring theirs up from 166 to the 170,805, because that is the building consultant that came. And I think we've actually had 3 different people look at that building. Flood insurance, our regular insurance, sent a building consultant, and then FEMA came and did their own inspection and wrote up their report. So.
But we don't have but we don't have a number on what we would receive if we don't fix it. Is that correct?
I've not asked the insurance for that.
I think that's part of the equation, though, is whatever that amount is. And trying to decide.
I personally don't need to decide. I personally would be in favor of moving to at least rehab just the transportation part. Like I would be fine if the other part went away, but it's not a good situation down there. It's not fair to our employees. I don't think it's fair to our citizens to have to cram everybody in there. You've got 13 people on average working in that small space down there. I just don't think it's fair. And we're not gonna have a new transportation building built or bought in that quick time frame, I don't think.
Yeah, I think we need to get them back in. I mean,
They don't even have anywhere to clean their vans.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad situation and we've got something sitting over there that we can do something with. That's kind of where
I do think it's gonna be a traffic jam, but I do think that there's also the possibility later on, if you just mitigate that one half and then tear down the tax office and the sheriff's office to open that up for parking and then potentially make maintenance in there. Because you've already got bays and we also have nowhere to put maintenance at this time because that also flooded.
But if we only fix part of the building, I guess this question is for
I don't know.
for the county attorney, but if we only fix part of the building, then we would only receive.
Yes, but that becomes a more complicated discussion with the insurance company and with FEMA. Generally, from what I've read about FEMA, they don't like a hybrid approach. They either want us to build it back or not build it back.
Okay.
And if we take a hybrid approach, then the insurance company may pay you for partially renovating, but partially tearing down. But that's, got several moving pieces.
Yeah, I don't know that FEMA would even be involved in that, because what's gonna happen is FEMA's goal is to put you whole to where you were before the storm happened. The day before the storm happened, that's what their goal is.
Yes, and doing it only half of it doesn't fit their regulations well.
Right, exactly. I don't know where else we're gonna put them right now, though.
Let me ask you a legal question. There's discussion going on. Some of the board want to hear more information. I'm good either way.
Could also say
Uh,
we move the tax
but
office.
Since we did wrong,
Corporation might need
put this on your
extra storage
agenda.
space. Cause they're gonna outgrow that building.
Yes, sir, the procedure, if you wish to take a vote on this, would be, you can take a motion to amend the agenda at any time. And you could take a vote to add this as a new agenda item. So that would be the proper procedure, would be first to amend the agenda to vote
Okay.
on this item. Or if you wish to not take action on it, since it's technically not on your agenda, you can just give direction to staff to be prepared to answer your questions, and provide numbers at your next meeting.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Blevins. You heard what the attorney just
Yes.
said us options.
My option on that is I'm looking like some of the others moving towards putting them back in that building. And,
I guess my question is, do you want to make an amendment to the agenda to give them permission? Or do you want to leave it off like it is now and have further discussion on it in a week and a half at our
next meeting.
at our January 21st meeting?
I think we should, my opinion is that we should do it at the next meeting, have more discussion on this. So that we can, make sure we have everything that we need to have done. If we're gonna do this, we need to do it right by the book.
Are we losing 2 weeks by by waiting, I guess, is that the,
Yeah, I mean, that's your decision. I mean, I didn't even really realize we had to have a vote on this, because I thought it was just, it would be like a consensus, because that's what we're doing in the finance office. We're dealing with insurance and FEMA, and we're moving these things like we've done the vehicles, we've accepted amounts, we've bought new vehicle. We're moving as quickly as we can, because I'm trying to get the projects to FEMA. I can't get it to FEMA till I deal with insurance. And it's a long process.
Instructions to staff would be to, unless otherwise directed, to continue with a full rebuild and FEMA reimbursement to the maximum extent possible. However, ultimately, it's within the board's discretion
Right,
if they choose to take the insurance payout and demolish the remains of the building rather than rebuild it. So that is a discretionary item that they can always redirect this at any time they choose.
right, exactly. And because it's a building, I'm trying to keep you updated. I mean, it's a little different than some of the vehicles and the equipment and the other things we're dealing with, but the building, because I know ultimately long-term plans were to have other options, but I think now with the storm, what it's done is it's delayed plans for Bowman, because we don't own Bowman yet. We can't go to grants or funds to rehab Bowman at this time. We're kind of in a catch-22 right now. So really, you're just looking at what's our best temporary solution.
And I'm gonna weigh in all this in the county manager report.
All right, do you want to just wait and let you talk about it?
yeah, I'll jump in there with you.
Why don't you just talk about it?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, this, so I understand what you just said a second ago for it. It sounded like you were suggesting maybe just keep plowing ahead, that we were heading, go ahead and trying to get them back in the building, knowing that in, 10 days when we have the full discussion and all the information that might stop, but.
Well, I'm mindful that, my role is to give you legal advice and not make the hard decisions that you folks are tasked with making, so it is completely within your discretion as to your timeline and also what you decide to do about the building. So, but you do have several options, whether you make those tonight or make those in 2 weeks that's within your discretion, as well as you tear it down or do you rehabilitate it. That's beyond my pay grade, for lack of a better term.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Take it away, Alex.
I'll wait for the chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mavis. Since Alan's got, wants to speak on this matter, had it on his, county manager's report, let's turn it over to you. Kind of roll with it.
Yes, sir, thank you, and I'll let Megan talk at it from her side, so really what you're looking at as far as in the county and projected timelines, so Bowman, to do it right, I'm about 2 years out, because I got some grant windows and stuff that's gonna move stuff. And as you heard at the last meeting on transportation, we're about 2 years out, because and those are early, that's conservative on transportation. If you all were to, we bring that back up on the agenda and you all were to okay the study that costs $30,000 to start the process, if we wanted to go through that grant process. We said that's about 2 years out, so Avery County's in the same boat. Newland's flooded out. They've got folks stationed all over the place. And the value of having some open office space that operates something is critical right now. And your option's still there for demolition a year or 2 years out. Soon as we get them in Bowman, you'll have that back on your agenda again to say, okay, we build this rec center, you start seeing the traffic interactions in it, and you know exactly which building you want to tear down, and maybe all of them. So if I were to put my opinion in there, very aware that you all are the will of the people and ditto what Ford said, I just want to provide the information as far as our staffing situation goes. Getting those folks in their own offices will be very good for them. And moving that as soon as we can will be very good for morale, for the public to have a place to go. That's got more privacy. A lot of times when you're doing your tax and your financial information, that's a discussion. So, and like I said, on Bowman, I'm about 2 years out to get everybody moved in there. I've got a plan with Bowman, but the storm and deadlines on grants and FEMA, and there's some other things coming through FEMA that we can maybe get creative with on all this stuff down the road. My thoughts from looking at from my county manager side of it and seeing these departments, I'd love to get them in there, back in their buildings as soon as I can, and then we can go from there. And when I get Bowman opened up, you can do whatever you want with that.
The estimate was March, I think to get them back in there, I think you were saying 60 to 90 days.
I'm hoping, but I don't know that. I have spoke preliminary to the contractor that had the lower bid and told him, once we had a decision, I want Alan and I and him to walk through and make sure we tell them exactly what we want. They wrote us a scope of work based off the engineer's report, but I'm hoping we could streamline that a little bit. And just in asking him, I said, what is your timeline if we were to move forward with this? Because I definitely want a beginning date and a definite drop dead end date. I don't want a contractor to come in here and start slowing, some of them will come in and then they'll go do another job, and then they'll come back and then they'll go do another job. So I've told him that we're critical, and he said that they do have it on their schedule, and he has promised me once we make a decision and we meet and walk through and fine tune everything, that they could start immediately. They have a crew that could start, they already have a crew in the area, and they have a crew that could start immediately. And he told me he could not define the time but 60 to 90 days did not sound unreasonable, but to him, depending on how long it took to do the mitigation and how much they found when they cut into the walls, like how much insulation they had to pull out. Yeah, I mean, he's reading the engineer's report, but nobody's cut into the walls yet, so there's still some gray areas, so I wouldn't wanna be too over optimistic, so I would. What is this, January? If we started February 1st, I would hope by April 1st we would be in there, but again. If we could finish one end and we could just move one department out, that would alleviate us for a little bit, we could move the other department out. And we would obviously not do a lot to the sheriff's department piece because they've actually moved in or going to be moving to their new building, so. I don't know, Steve, it's not my expertise, I'm just trying to do the best I can to navigate these waters.
All right, back to the county manager. So I'm gonna go shift over to waterway debris removal and debris, the world we live in right now. It's fun times, I know. So I talked to State EM today and I asked them specifically about silt. Division of Environmental Quality, DEQ. They have still not made a finding on silt, but they think they're getting closer to it to say that, you know, what is silt that's tested as clean, you know, can start be moving. DEQ's getting closer to moving our silt. We have silt piles all around the county here in Bakersfield. And that is a state thing that's kind of waiting on testing and environmental DEQ things, but it sounds like it's getting a little closer. Then right now we're scoping and we're, while we haven't committed to the Corps, we're moving forward with the Corps of Engineers on our waterway debris removal, and we're scoping that locally. So I've got some of the CWP folks, USDA, the people that our locals know where it floods, knows where those pinch points are. And they've done stream restoration and debris removal in county before. So I'm using those folks to help with getting our GPS points, identifying our critical infrastructure, and putting together a scope of work. What we're going to do on this with the Corps is we're going to scope out and submit a watershed. We're looking at two of them, the Cane Creek watershed, which impacts Bakersfield, and the North Toe watershed that impacts the town of Spruce Pine. We're gonna put one of those together and move that forward to see what the Corps can do with it, to give them a see how that process, see if they even accept what our folks are saying, because other counties are having a little trouble getting their scope of work approved by FEMA and the Corps. So we're gonna take a shot at a watershed, see how that goes, and do that. So I've not come to you asking kind of authorization for the Corps. We're in one of them places where we kind of run our scope and we'll see if they take it. And we're not really committed. We're moving forward, like I said, with the Corps. But if they're not taking our scope, we can back out and start looking at other options. I'm keeping those open as good as we can. And that's the same thing with private property debris removal, because it goes alongside of the waterway debris removal in that, you know, the silt or the silt debris, whatever, has went up on the sides of the other property. It was way out of the bank, so you gotta get on that private property. Mavis and I, finance, we have done, some RFPs out that we might can get, right of entry set up on that. So we think we can turn that on pretty quickly. Corps given us an RFP, and that other RFP had several apply with right of entry options in their package. So we got that covered on private property debris removal. And just on the live stream, you know, on the private property debris removal, that's not just for waterways, that's for your private property as well. You'll have to sign a right of entry form. The contractor will then bring in a crew to get those trees that were down that was threatening an emergency vehicle and emergency access to your home. It's not going to be cleaning your back 40 out for a new Christmas tree patch or something, but it's definitely, if it's storm related damage, they're going to come in there and get it. Root balls and. They will get root balls, you know, a lot of these trees fell up by the roots now, if you as a private person gets them root balls up and puts them in a stack, it's gonna be a little better, cause they have a bunch of, requirements if the root ball's still in the ground. So I would say have you a little pile made right there, but they can get them, but there's a lot more to root balls if they're attached to the ground to a certain percentage, from what I understand.
Now, when you say watershed, what does that mean?
Okay, so for example, Cane Creek watershed is, Cane Creek comes into Bakersfield, but then there's Spring Creek that goes into that. There's, several little small creeks feeding Cane Creek.
Yeah.
And some of them are jammed full of debris too. And they got little bridges and roads and stuff near those. So when I do that watershed, we're gonna hit Young Cove. We're gonna look at McKinney Cove. I don't think it has major debris. We're gonna hit all of Cane Creek as far as it goes. We're gonna hit Spring Creek. And I think there's one more little creek in there, but when I do it, we're doing a survey 123 app where it does geo coordinates, and I'll probably have John doing some of our assistant EM with us, Andrew. We'll have a lot of folks in that are gonna come out there and hit that real hard to get that scoped out, because they're wanting GPS points. And then to mark the debris, so we got a means of doing that.
Were there any areas down towards Bradshaw in that area?
So yeah, if you get down toward Bradshaw, we've scoped all the creeks out. I had them already done, and we've coded them as orange as being some of the worst, and yellow second worst, blue third. And so we've done those Bradshaw area creeks. They will be scoped out too. So we're catching them one project at a time, because if I do all these projects and they turn me down, I don't want to have done all that work and they say, well, you need to do this. So I'm gonna sit in one kind of project that's doable, that I can put about a week's worth of scoping on, send that over to the Corps, and then see if that gets approved. And if they take my points and they see and they send their boots out on the ground, we'll have that. Then I'll have me a ditto thing to run for all the county. I'll have me a duplicate to run off that style. And so that's kind of what our plan is on that side of it.
Will Gary be working to get the right entry forms?
We will be using a whole contract deal on right of entry, if, depending on who we use, but we'll probably have a website people can go to, set up by the right of entry folks. And plus, they will contract in maybe 3 or 4 that come out to the properties where they may not have went to the website and got the right of entry. So we hope to stand up a bigger company that can just really handle that and knock it out turnkey, because it is reimbursable through FEMA.
And Mr. Chairman, once those have been reviewed by staff will bring a recommendation to this board as to which company to select. But that will enable us to have the resources to acquire those right of entry forms. For citizens who are watching, the purpose of this right of entry form is, first, it's required by the federal government that we have one, but essentially it is a liability waiver that when folks come onto the property, that they won't be responsible for injuries that may occur while they're trying to help clean this out at our expense. And I suppose by our expense, it's reimbursed by FEMA.
Yeah. Thank you.
And it may be, citizens can rescind their consent. Essentially, if they come on there and you don't like what they're doing, you can tell them, hey, this isn't working out.
That was my next question.
And citizens can do that.
So let's get the debris.
Make sure we can ask an additional question for
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so that's a little bit about what's going on with Waterway, and like I said, we're moving it forward. We can back out still right now, so I'm not really bringing it up for a vote. I'm moving some projects forward on it to see if they get approved and how they move. Private roads and bridges. We've had some executive orders come out last week, and the state's looking to get into private road and business assistance. The governor did some executive orders. The General Assembly needs to meet to put some funds behind those executive orders, but basically, they were to facilitate housing, private roads and bridges, set up programs in the impacted areas. So there's 6 or 7 executive orders. What we're looking at right now on that is the state EM is going to be given the oversight on the hurricane region that was impacted. So state EM will probably be sending down word on how that contract's out. We're hearing that if you're an approved contractor already with the state, of course, that's going to give you preference on there. I've been hearing mixed things on that right now. Should have some better information for you on how that contracting works out when I get a little more information over next week, because I think we're gonna need General Assembly to spec out some driving lanes for how that does, but they're trying to waive a few things, but they still haven't waived the no-rise study, and there was one more environmental assessment that's gonna be the goal was to get bridges in fast. You know, we here at county, we hear you, we get you every week. We're talking to you about your bridge being out, and a lot of our citizens are walking across foot logs, fording the creek, and look at it, it's 9 degrees this morning, you know, and if you had to get out for work, go across a froze up foot log, creeks rerouted, things such as that. We are putting pressure from our end on it to say this is a critical need in Mitchell County, is getting these bridges back in place. If you're one of them that's got a bridge out, I feel for you. My prayers are with you. So, we're pushing that as hard as we can. I think the state is seeing that FEMA's been slow on this. You know, FEMA has not been, funding these IAs on these bridges. In fact, they do exactly what you said in this room. They tell you to come back 7 times and then go back and tell you, you know, something else needs to be fixed. And I've not been seeing IA. I've got 30 or so bridges ready for contractors to jump on, and all they're waiting for is the IA from FEMA to come through. So I've put out for direction, if we did them through the county as a PA, that's public assistance, IA's individual assistance. So if we did them through the county, give me my guidelines and we'll try to do them that way, but nobody's giving me guidelines, nobody's giving the other counties guidelines. And as different counties throughout the impacted area, I know Avery and Yancey right beside us, we're both, if you find out something, you let me know, and if I find out something, I'll let you know. We're all still asking, give us some guidelines. So, they always say might, and they definitely said we won't reimburse you unless you've done your environmental assessments and your no rise. And that being on a bridge, that's a repair. I was asking in the meeting, do I have to do all that on a repair of a bridge? And well, technically, yeah, if you want to be reimbursed through the county. Now, if you're on individual assistance and you got a contractor, well, I won't say that on live stream, but that contractor is probably just going to get that bridge fixed. And you got your, you know, like I said, it's a mess, but we're moving it. We're pushing it, just so you know, we're pushing it. And I know there's folks out there with second homes that have, need access to those homes, and Mitchell County has a housing shortage. We'll see how the state weighs in on that. But of course, primary homes will be the priority. You know, that's just the way it is. It's going to be the priority. But, you know, even any kind of access, opening your county back up and getting it ready is a discussion point. Finally, I want to talk about long-term disaster recovery group is getting set up at the senior center, at the volunteer resource center. It's a great thing, folks. I went out there to a meeting today. And so a long-term disaster recovery, it's Mitchell County Long-Term Disaster Recovery Group. They have put together their articles of incorporation. They are about to get their exempt status to start taking donations in about another week or so. When that happens, we can start giving money into them. They have a board set up and bylaws set up, and they are fixed to basically do anything. Whereas, you know, some nonprofits might focus in on a certain area. This is anything that happens. If you've got someone that needs some fuel, well, you know, that fund's going to be there to help them. If someone's house burns down, it's a disaster. They're going to have resources to help. It's going to be a long-term in the county for years type organization. And it's just getting started and it's essential for us moving forward over the next 5 years. You'll hear more from that. Going to be a good thing and we're doing it right. I did one of those meetings to get that set up. So that is something Stephanie Pittman is helping with the organization on that. And we have some really good, we got a good scattering of citizens from around the county. And they all have roles that will give us good insight on analyzing need.
What'd you call it, the Mitchell County what?
I think it's the Mitchell County Long-Term Disaster Recovery Group, I think. I think, I might be wrong, but I think that's what they named it. So yeah, I think, saying that housing was the last thing as far as just disaster housing. Of course, you know, they have, I think I told you at the town hall, there was about 12 FEMA houses being requested for Mitchell County. I think one of them has found its way into the county. And we have 11 and we're looking at sites and I'm starting to get some sites moving in. One of the sites, I talked to the county manager in Avery last night and we might can take the old youth prison. Mayland Community College has a couple acres across that has, Masonwood Health Department said that has water and sewer approved. Of course, it being in Avery, I would want Philip to make sure his citizens got their need, because that's one's in Mitchell. I want to make sure our citizens have our needs. But Philip said if there's open spaces, then he could let some of our folks set up over there. I've also looked at some 2 rentals and about an acre's worth on town water and sewer that I might can get. That would be 2 rentals that we got and maybe 2 trailers on that. So that would be 4. And so we're starting to try to identify properties that will qualify for these trailers to land on. And that too is under that state. So you got the state getting ready to do some housing and FEMA having some housing that's been pending for 4 months now. So maybe this stuff will start moving, but that was the last thing I wanted to talk about.
When you say there's 12 units, are those actually like a single wide trailer or are those like a camper trailer?
These would be a single wide, more so of a long-term type trailer that would set on, not a camper trailer. Now, there's a lot more camper trailers around. Thank you for that clarification, because I probably got beat over the head with that on social media. So yeah, these are long-term anchored down, code set up, tied into water sewer, insulated, long-term trailers, not camping trailers. We've got a lot of camping trailers out, and on these cold days, we're trying to we're worried about keeping them set up. We've been running a lot through our volunteer resource center on trying to get insulation and propane to those folks. And think about the maintenance on a camping trailer. If y'all have one, you know, you've never been in one, having to maintenance that thing. So that's something on there that's an issue. So we're working on that. And what else was I gonna say that just crossed my mind, that just left my mind? I guess we'll just say that's the conclusion. So I won't hijack your meeting anymore.
I have one more question or an update from you if you don't care. What is the status of the law enforcement center? Where are we at with
It
that?
is very close. We've got some punch list items on the law enforcement center that have to do with handicap access. Once that gets worked out with inspections, then we should be getting a certificate of occupancy. And I'm optimistic that they'll have that worked out next week. And maybe we can get that thing to where we've got the sheriff's operating out of it. So that's very close. Thanks. That's one that needed to be updated on. And my other thing I was thinking on was right now in temporary shelter assistant, that's the hotel vouchers from FEMA. We have about 50 citizens that are staying in hotel assistance right now. That will go week to week, and as it's got a deadline coming up of, I think, Sunday, where they're stopping that, but you can re-up, and if you show that you have to prove it after that. You have to show you're out of the house. If you've not been doing their inspections and not been participating in the FEMA required things to handle, like if you have a need and you say you're out of your house, but you won't let them inspect your house, then you're going to be out of the temporary shelter assistance. So keep that in mind.
You said there was 50?
There's still 50.
Bill, do you know out of that 50 by chance, how many have Mitchell County students? that are having to, just one?
Right now, I think there's one right now. I do have one.
Mhm. Or is it not having
They've been coming from
the community?
Asheville
Yeah,
to school over here every day.
yeah.
Because the school system offered to put them in Asheville City Schools, but they don't want to uproot the kids
Mhm.
from Mitchell County schools. So they're still having to travel, and they're, just as Alan said, they're in that same situation from the last update that we got from them last week, since we've not been in. Last Thursday, they were having to fight that deadline.
Mhm.
So as far as I know, I think we only have one.
Okay.
Now, there may be more on the middle school side, I'm not sure,
Mhm.
but on the elementary side, I think that's the only one. Because their house is still not livable. Yeah,
Well, do we not have any sites in Mitchell County? Something closer than Asheville? Or,
Like for a camper?
no, for this situation, if these people living in a hotel in Asheville?
I think, Jeff, that's where FEMA puts them.
Yeah, there's
Well,
certain
I mean, you
hotels
know-
here that don't take the vouchers.
We've sort of talked about this, or, public's talked about this, let's say you got a kid, you're having to go to Johnson City or Asheville. And you got to get your kid up at 4:30 to have them in school. Well, then you get over here and they call school off.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're out of school, do you go back to Asheville, or is your kid limited to playing rec sports? I mean, the whole life's still distressed, I mean, it's a cluster, any way you wanna do it, so. I think, maybe I shouldn't say what I'm gonna say, the whole system's screwed up. And it's taking way too long to happen, and I'm so frustrated with FEMA that I can't stand it. I know it's good for counties, I know it's been good for the towns. But these individuals, they're people guys,
It's hard.
and then, you lose your house, we're gonna give you $42,000. You lose your house, 2 cars, and a tractor. And this happened to a young man I talked to in Yankton, $22,000. Now, there's something wrong here, but I can bitch about it all day long, and ain't nobody cares, and nobody listens, and I keep doing things about it. So, that's where we're at, and I'm sorry I got us off track. It works. Anything else, Harley, before we go on to board comments?
No, the sheriff's office, an update on it was the last thing I had wrote down.
Okay, then you're at the board comments. You got it.
No, the only thing I seen an email come in from Victoria from the High Country, it was kind of in reference to the Chuck Edwards thing that you said, but, I don't know if they're doing 2 meetings or if it's just,
And I just saw that.
it's at Mayland Community College for Mitchell, Yancey and Avery's, elected officials, town managers, commissioners, all that. So if everybody will check their email, if you don't have it, Jeff can forward it to you. But that's all it is.
Brother Eric?
I'm gonna let this sugar set in before I say anything.
Okay.
I'll let myself slip.
Okay. Well, Mr. Blades.
Well, I just have, it's like Jeff has told us before, we have a large job ahead of us. And, a lot of decisions to be made. And the 3 big issues we discussed tonight, the debris removal, the timber recovery efforts, getting our employees back into the facilities they need to be in. First of all, I would like to tell Davis and Alan and the staff here how much we appreciate y'all, keeping us informed on this, because if you don't keep us informed, we can't make the right decision for the citizens of this county, what's best for them. And, I'm just gonna be honest until I understand and make sure I understand. I don't wanna vote on anything that I don't understand, just because maybe somebody else wants to vote on it, but, I appreciate y'all keeping us informed, and, I'll have lots of questions, so.
Anything else?
That's it.
Brad Pitt. Lee, you good? You want me to go and then get back?
I just want to echo what Dale said. He and I being new, I appreciate each one of the commissioners, especially Alan and the team and for as well. It's been a learning experience, but we do have a responsibility to move this forward after the storm and try to get things both from an individual standpoint, but a business standpoint. We try to get things moving sooner rather than later.
Okay. That is, okay. Just got a text message, let everybody know, live stream the distribution center will be open tomorrow from 10 to 5. Couple of things that I just want to say to us as a board, I think we all agree that there's a tremendous amount of work. We've all took on a major task here, and thank God we've got good people around us that direct and guidance. At the last commissioners meeting, I mentioned our goals. If we can have our list ready for our 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year goals that we as commissioners that would like to put together and everything. And have the clerk compile it, and let's work toward that. Since then, I've added an immediate need, even before the 1 year plan. Good. At our January 21st meeting, could you guys have your goals written down and talk about them briefly, give them to Deidre, let her compile? And then at one of our February meetings, discuss those and see which direction we want to go in. Would that be? Give us homework. Mavis is gonna give us some more here in a minute. Is that good with everybody? And then the second thing I wanted to mention in talking to Mavis, and she pointed out a little bit tonight about, the finances. About having a financial workshop.
We need to, probably with 2 new members, I would love to see having a brief workshop to discuss the budget process, and especially this year, if we could do that sometime before the end of February. I think I would like for you guys, we need to look at the financials. We need to look at, before I send budget workshop or worksheets out in March and send letters out to our outside agencies, we need to kind of see what direction we want those requests to come back in. Do we, in the past, we put some direction in those requests as to where the county is or where the county thinks we can fund for next year. I hate to see an outside agency request the sun, the moon, and the stars when we know we're barely gonna be able to do a CPI, for example. So, and I thought it might be a good idea to sit down and allow the new members to kind of get a feel for the schedule. We need to look at the budget schedule, because you're gonna have ENR coming up, right, Alan? And that's gonna take several days in April. So we need to I would like to have some feeling from you guys on where you want that schedule to be. I can tell you what we usually do in the past, and we can see if that's gonna work this year, because it's definitely gonna be a unique year coming up.
When did you say you'll have the sales tax numbers?
I get them every 15th of every month, so
Okay.
if you wait till after the 15th of February, then I would have 2 more months, so we would have 6 months of sales tax versus the 4 months I have now. And the other thing is I've talked to Blair in the tax office. Another reason to wait until the latter part of February is he has sent out business personnel. Those go out in January. He gets those back by the end of January. He can start looking to see what the trend is there as far as values go. Of course, your biggest value change is going to be after ENR, but at least he can see a little bit just from those listings that come in January. So, he and I've talked about trying to look at those numbers and see where we are.
Okay, I think you mentioned to me that it would probably be better to do this workshop just as a general non-meeting,
Right,
and then
I
also,
wouldn't include it with your normal meeting because there's a lot of question and answers that go on. It's more like a little bit of a learning session and a planning session to pick some dates.
so, you know, to go along with that, also talking to Christie about the opioid. Her and Glenda, we need to get back on track with that. I think both of those agree. You know, we can coincide these two
Mhm. That would be,
meetings in the one and make it more of an informal thing for all of us. I think everybody's did get information package, with Christie, on opioid and all the plan. So that'll give you time to look at it. Then, you know, get your questions together, but, you know, it sounds like we got a lot coming up. Don't wanna meet any more than we have to, cause we're gonna be very busy with E&R. I don't think a 3-day will touch it this year.
Mhm.
We're gonna be very busy with the budget process, so, you know, a lot of work in the next several months. You guys look at your February calendar and let's sort of decide what we wanna do. And see, already heard we need to do it after the 15th.
well, it would be good if you want.
When you get to our numbers.
I think it would give the tax office and myself, we'd have a little bit more
Okay.
idea if you did it. I mean, I would suggest maybe look at that last week in February, or if you didn't do the second meeting in February, maybe sometime that week.
That's what I was about ready to bring up. We could cancel our second meeting in February.
If you don't have a
If
lot
three-
on the
if three
agenda.
different meetings that month, back to back to back, it's gonna be a
Yeah,
issue. I mean, it probably would be, so.
February is a short month anyway.
So do you wanna talk about a date tonight? Do you wanna talk about it at the
Dale,
January meeting?
Dale, yearly, the 19th and the 20th, we have our ethics training, so does that gonna propose a problem with your work schedules when the 18th, the 19th and 20th with county stuff? Okay. Let's
I'm
have
good
that.
with mine.
Okay.
Get to get them early.
So you guys wanna think about this or set a date tonight?
You can think
As
about
far
it, set
as
it
what
next
we
time.
want to, you want, I mean, we meet again in 9 days. So it's strictly up to you guys. You're all quiet.
I'm fine with doing it on the 18th. Cause we meet on the 3rd, the 18th. Then we meet on the 3rd of March, the 18th of March, then in April, we will have. Early budget, I would imagine, at some point, maybe someone talk to us about budget, and then E&R, which will be like 5 days plus 2 regular meetings. Then in May, you're gonna have 2 regular meetings and budget workshops.
18th's fine with me.
18's fine with me.
Okay.
Let's set the 18th at 5 o'clock. Is that good with everybody? And we'll go ahead and cancel, put a notice out to cancel the second meeting on the 18th, and then let this be a budget opioid discussion or workshop, however the best worded.
Are you thinking like an hour for each topic or longer?
We can't learn much if it's over 2 hours. Don't forget much of it. Keep your time.
Maybe have some light snacks or something.
More than 4 pieces of candy?
Got a sled rubber back there. So. Can't be on Wesley. Put down a hat,
It's hard, no. That's what we're talking about.
Okay, guys, we good on that? Okay, we have a need for a closed session tonight. I will give the statute and the reason, and then leave a motion and a second. It'll be 143-318A3, that's attorney-client, as well as A6. That's for personnel. I'd like to go ahead and do A6 first. So we can let HR go after that portion of it, if that's okay with everybody. So I need a motion to go into closed session with the stated items.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll make the second. So we'll keep the board, the attorney, and Ms. Glenn, right?
Can we take a quick?
For
water break?
A6, and then we take a quick.